Sis and Tell. A whole lot of talk, about a whole lot of nothing. Amanda does stand up, Alison's on TV, and when they hop on the phone, it's the place you wanna be. Sis and Tell.
Hey, Allie.
Hey, man. How are ya?
Just living in the disaster called Camp Prep.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lists and there's lists of lists, and people have got these lists and they're not listening to them. I told Oscar and Ruby, well, they learned an acronym the other day from me, and that was SOL. I said, this is our last trip to Target, okay? If you don't have what you need and you can't find it here, you are SOL.
Yeah.
And they're like, what does that mean, Mommy? And they, I don't know. Can I say it on the podcast? We try and keep it clean.
I think everybody knows you're something out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is it. You're going to have to borrow.
That's an older acronym than LOL. So if people don't know SOL, that means they're too young to understand it, and they can go look it up the way we have to look up their new acronyms.
And soon SOL is going to be trending amongst, 13-year-olds.
God willing, yeah. So I found out something. I found out something that I had no idea about, and I wanted to share with you. Maybe you know because you're sometimes more in the know than I am. But I was at getting my haircut, which is, if anybody knows anything, where you get your haircut is the wealth of all knowledge and information. So if your current place of hairstyling is not the source of all important information, you need to switch hairstylists, because that's
like gossip?
No, not gossip. Just great information and stories. Like, I hear the best stories and information. And the most recent trip I had told me about a place called Treasure Hunt in Chattanooga. Now, let me back up. The reason Treasure Hunt exists is because my hairstylist happened to mention that she said, did you know that when you return something to Amazon, it really doesn't go back to Amazon? And I said, well, where does it go? She said, it goes to these third parties who then resell it. And there's a place in, see, did you know this?
No, for everything? That doesn't make sense.
I'm just
saying.
For
everything?
I'm not sure if it's for everything, but for some things, maybe most things, and maybe
Can we have a birthday party there? Can we have a birthday party?
This is the thing. So she says the one in Chattanooga is called Treasure Hunt. I'm dying to go. And not only do they resell all the stuff that people have returned on Amazon, but they resell it according to, like, every day is a different dollar day. So like Monday, everything is $7. Wednesday, everything is $4. And then she said the weekends, everything in the store. She said the weekend sometimes it's like everything's 50 cents, but you have to get there early.
Do you know what you're getting? Is it mystery?
What it is, I told her, it feels a lot like lost luggage.
Pawn Stars.
Lost luggage.
Oh, I was going to say Pawn. No. What's the place where you can, no, not Pawn Stars, where they get storage units, but they don't know what they're getting.
That's Storage Wars. Yeah.
Storage Wars.
No, this is not like you open up a wrapped Amazon gift or a package and see what you get. This is like, I bought a baby blanket. I didn't want it. I returned it. It actually didn't go back to the original store or Amazon, warehouse. It went to Treasure Hunt or a similar third party entity, and then they put the baby blanket on the shelf with a tag that says $7 or $5 or whatever it is. She said there are diapers, there are baby monitors. I'm going down a kid's aisle right now.
We don't need any of the baby stuff.
I understand. This woman had
a
1-year-old. That's why. I feel like they have
TVs.
Everything. I don't know what they have yet.
Furniture.
You know as much as I know now because I haven't actually been there, but I am intrigued. I also have not been to that place, the lost furniture place. The lost luggage place. Do you know about that place?
Yeah, I've heard of that. And it also sounds like a rumor. Are we sure that's true?
No, that's 1,000% true. I haven't been, but I know it's true. There is a place where you go and it's all the lost luggage items.
That upsets me because what is the, I'd like to know the evolution of the lost luggage. At what point do they give up on trying to get the luggage back to the rightful owner?
Well,
Right?
I think some people maybe just didn't have a tag, or maybe they moved, or maybe they just didn't unclaimed luggage.
Unclaimed
Sorry.
luggage.
It's a misnomer. Sorry. I've been wrongly naming it. It's not called lost luggage. Unclaimed luggage. Does that make you feel better?
That does make me feel better, but also where I have a lot of unclaimed socks that I don't know what to do with all these socks. They're like ridiculous. Like one time I wouldn't let my kids do anything until they went through this box of socks. It's crazy. I'm like, these are your socks. Take them back. Take them away from the clean clothes hamper.
Yeah.
We have so many socks.
Can't you donate them to a preschool to make them into sock puppets or something creative?
Do you think that's really happening? How many sock puppets can one preschool make?
Out of dirty old socks. Right.
Yeah, there's got to be something like I could donate them to like an animal shelter and they can use them for lining the cages.
That's
I
true.
don't know.
You can turn them into rags. I bet a sock makes a great rag. You just throw it on your hand and wash and go.
There you go.
Yeah. There's
Done.
lots of things you can do with those socks.
There, that's your next company idea. You got to figure out what to do with unwanted, unclaimed socks.
Yeah. Well, so the other thing this week, totally separate, that I just wanted to get off my chest is I got a sty. I don't know if you can still see it. It's on my right eye.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
right
I
above
can.
it. You
Yeah,
can?
I can see it. I can. Well, not only because you pointed it out. It's just a little puffy, right?
Yeah.
Right there.
Well, this is
the
like
worst.
105% better than it was over the past 2 weeks. And unfortunately, I had to fly to Texas this week to speak. I haven't had live speaking events in 2 years, and this was my second one in the past month.
Was your eye swollen shut?
Oh, my eye. Every day I was like just praying to the sty gods, saying, please let my eye. I don't know if anybody's ever had a sty. I get them not on a regular basis, but on an occasional basis. So I know exactly when it's coming because I get that throbbing pain in like the corner of my eye. And immediately I get a warm compress. I start using that, and it usually diffuses it.
You can also use a potato. Did you know that? Because potatoes obtain their heat. If you just nuke a potato for a little bit and you can put that potato on your eye, I'm telling you, potatoes and tea bags.
Good to know.
Tea bags and potatoes, but really potatoes retain their heat much
longer
longer than
good information a week ago.
Well, now you have it. You said you get styes all the time, but I'm sorry, I keep on picturing what's his name, Sloth from Goonies.
Oh, Sloth. So I keep calling myself Wiggy from Something About Mary. Remember that character?
Yes.
He had them all over. Ugh. And I'm like wigging out because I look like him. It got really bad. It was like sort of not getting worse, but not getting better. I called my eye doctor. He gave me some antibiotics and a cream. Still wasn't getting better. And then I woke up the morning I had to go to Texas, and it was the worst it had been. Like so much so that my eye was half swollen shut, and this is not a good look for speaking.
No.
So I started with the warm compresses again. I did some more prayers to the sty gods. By the time I got to Texas,
it's not a good look for not speaking. Also.
No, it's not a good look at all.
Even if you're silent, it's not a good look.
No. And so finally,
swollen eye.
I will tell you, it got better. The swelling went down between the morning. You know, I always wake up and everybody's swollen a little bit, but by that night, I just want to say how proud I am that I was able to cover up, I would say 90% of it with the makeup job, which I know I'm not even supposed to wear makeup when I have a sty, but there was the only way to get around this. The way I was able to, I actually wore some eyeshadow and I did the top liner, and I don't think anybody noticed. At least they were too polite to say anything. And
they're too polite.
I was far away. I was far enough away that, I don't think anybody could see it. So I felt good about it.
I'm sure it was fine. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I can't believe you can see it. I think it's hard to see now.
Well, it's in the shadow of the light. I think it's only because you pointed it out to me. I would have never, ever seen.
Yeah, because right now it's deflated significantly and going away. But a sty is no joke. And then the worst part is when it got really big, I know nobody wants to hear more about this, but it looks like a giant pimple. It gets like a white, it looks like almost a whiteness on it, like a pimple gets that white head. And I'm like, I should pop it. And then it'll go away.
No.
Well, then I looked online and it said, do not pop a sty, whatever you do. But it's so tempting.
Isn't it on the inside of your eyelid?
It sort of, for me, was on the in and outside. It was a raised bump on the inside.
Okay, this is
on the top.
gross.
Yeah.
We have to stop talking about
This has
this.
been traumatic for me, though.
Speaking of
I don't know
trauma,
how to get rid of them in the future. I don't want it ever again.
speaking of trauma, I'm on a variety show. Not this Friday, but next Friday. And I'm having some traumatic issues with the title of the show. It's called Middle Aged Cabaret. And you had to be over 40 to be booked on it.
Okay.
And
Check.
right? And I'm doing stand up, but there's like there's burlesque performers. It's going to be an amazing
Really?
show.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be amazing. My friend Shelley is producing it. She's one of the most creative and talented women that I know. And I feel like she's reclaiming the term middle-aged, whereas I think it just needs to be rebranded. We need a whole new word.
Yeah.
I just can't. And I was talking to my friend about this, and she's like, I can't deal with the word empty nesters. And I was like, I'm okay with empty nester. That's aspirational. But middle-aged.
Yeah, but as long as middle age is, I'm 51 and I'd like to be middle aged because I'd like to live to at least 100. So I'm
Right.
okay right now calling myself middle aged.
I don't know. I
As
think
long
of
as
like
that
Middle
means
Earth.
I'm going
I don't
to
know.
live twice as long. Yes. What do you want to
It
call
just
yourself?
seems so. Can I just say I'm Amanda? Do I have to claim an age? Like, why are we so age obsessed?
Well, they're also, it's
know?
the generations, right? The Xers, the Boomers, the Millennials. And I don't even know, I can't even remember what I am anymore. But why do we have to put everybody in a category? It's funny, I was in a board meeting last night for a nonprofit that I work with. And there's a woman on our board who's much younger than the rest of us, but is also equally like experienced and creative and dynamic. And she had like in succession, she kept saying, I'm sorry, I'm very young, so I don't know these things, would ask a question. And I finally just stopped her in the middle of the meeting. And I said, first of all, you're young, but you have great questions. And the youth is not an excuse. We don't care how young you are. You're on this board because of your, ability to really be thoughtful and strategic in approach. Second of all, stop apologizing. I said, I just read something on Facebook the other day about how
Women
particularly
apologizing.
women, yes,
Yeah.
women apologize in professional settings way too much. And we say, oh, I'm sorry, but I'd love to say, or whatever it is. I think it's become not in a way where I did something wrong and I'm sorry. We should always apologize for that. But pointing out that our first step forward oftentimes in a professional setting is to be apologetic in nature when we have something to say, or if we think we're off track, or if we're pushing against the grain. And we as women need to stop apologizing. Just stop. I think, and I don't even realize if I do it. I realize, that it is a trend. I realized that this woman was doing it in the meeting. And the irony is, there were probably 10 of us and there was only one man in the room. So she was apologizing to other women. And I finally said, I told her I had read this recently, so I was hypersensitive.
You do this in front of everyone?
I did.
You did this
Respectfully, I wasn't like upset with her. I was really saying, I said, look, strong women support strong women. And I want you to know, we hear you. Your everything you're saying is valued. And we cherish your opinion. You don't have to apologize for anything, not your age, not anything that you are. We embrace you. And she just started laughing. She goes, thank you, thank you. So she got better throughout the meeting. But I think somebody has to tell you that sometimes and call you out, because if not, it becomes second nature. It becomes ingrained in our vernacular and the way we present ourselves. And it's small. Mm-hmm. It's incidental. And I think for the most part, people will say, I never hear that. Start listening to yourself and listening to conversations, and it happens.
You know what? We also do? Instead of saying I think, we say I feel. Right? I feel like it would be better if we went down this path instead of just saying it would be better if we went down this path instead, or I think it would be better. Yeah. Right? Like I feels like it's just my opinion and it's just the feeling I have. But you're right. But it's like, it's okay.
My other friend wrote that her pet peeve is when we say just. I just want to check in and make sure this, or I just wanted to see. She said, stop saying just. You are checking in. you are seeing. You are trying to make sure
Right.
that everything is on task. You don't have to say just because to justify it. So
Let's put that word to bed.
put it to bed. Sorry, not sorry. Well, in other news, I forgot to congratulate you on a completion of, I assume this might have been a bucket list, but being in a play.
Yeah, you know what? It was not in a bucket list.
Oh,
But I'm glad it happened.
yeah.
But a few months ago, I was approached by this guy, Jeffrey Bootzer, who is a fantastic musician. He had written a play, and the workshop production of it was going to be put on by Push Push Arts Theater. And he asked me if I'd be interested in one of the parts. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll be in a play. And it was a lot of lines, so many lines. And
Let's back up though. He didn't just ask you. Apparently, Mommy told me he wrote this part for you. Like he had stalked you on Facebook and then
I don't
sought
think
you
he
out.
wrote. I don't know
don't
if that's
know.
true.
That's what's going around the rumor mill.
Mommy has a way of translating information. So he did see. I'm friends with him on Facebook, and I was before the play started, but I could not remember why or how I knew him. But he's really funny and an interesting guy. So he reached out to me because he said he saw one of my clips from comedy and thought I'd be a good fit. So we had a ton of rehearsals. There were supposed to be 10 shows. 3 of them got canceled because half of us got COVID.
Oh,
and that being said, there were only like 4 of us in the cast.
Right.
So half of us is 2. And it made sense that was me and my friend Laurie because we would carpool with each other. So whatever I had, she had. Whatever she had, I had at that point. And even though she got it a day before me, we could have gotten it at the same time, and she just got sick before me. Who knows? But it was so much fun, and it was a huge part. Like it was, as soon as I got the script, I was like, oh my God. But I have a really good memory. I'm really good at memorizing things.
Was your part funny? Was it a straight person? Like in terms of not funny?
The comedy? No,
Yeah.
I'd say all the characters were quirky, but I was the biggest, quirkiest, weirdest one, which was awesome. So when we first started rehearsing, there's, a lot of times they'll be like, keep it grounded, like keep it natural. And as soon as I got permission to not keep it natural, which I am not really grounded, you know what I mean? Like my grounded is very quirky. Like I'm big, like I gesticulate, I do intonations in my voice constantly. Like I'm always doing voices and weird stuff. So
I know. We were listening to the podcast. I was in the car with Alan, and every time you changed your voice, he'd look at me. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you.
that I was doing, I just can't help it. I do characters. It's just who I am. So I could be so weird, and it was awesome. It was so much fun, and I played this character, Dr. Sue, and she's basically a counselor at a women's correctional facility. But
I'm picturing Jane Lynch. Is she a sort of a Jane Lynch character?
I would say no. I wouldn't compare her to Jane Lynch.
Okay, never mind.
No, Jane Lynch is. I was more girly. I was like girlier, and like I was trying to seduce her, but it was called the Kevin Costner Women's Correctional Facility in Langdonville, and there are all these Waterworld references throughout the entire play.
Oh, that's funny.
It was very offbeat. So the first night we didn't know, but the theater reviewer from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution came, and
that's exciting.
He evidently is very critical of
the
theater.
Oh, the critic has a lot of opinions.
Right. And he gave us a pretty nice review. And the thing is that this was a workshop production, meaning it's supposed to be in the works. It's not perfect. It's very low budget.
So wait, how many different shows did you have for the public? 4? Did you end up with 4?
We ended up having 7.
Oh.
Well, we had 2 preview shows. Opening weekend, we did 3 nights. We skipped Memorial Day weekend, which was supposed to be an additional 3, and then we ended with 2.
So how close to the first one was the last performance? Did it change at all?
I mean, I'd say,
Because I'm thinking with workshopping, you sort of add, you amend, you sharpen.
I think by the first night we pretty much had it down, but it was up in the air whether or not that was going to happen. I mean, we were still changing things the day before.
No, I'm saying between your first show and your last show, were those pretty consistent with each other, or did they even change?
No, I think they were pretty consistent. We would change little things, right? Like,
did anybody forget a line?
Oh, yes, 100%. I forgot lines.
So what happened?
I forgot lines, or we would flip lines around. But we know the gist of it, and the audience didn't have the script in front of them. It's not like they were like,
right.
Then
it becomes like a Curb Your Enthusiasm, right? Curb isn't scripted apparently. They just have to get to a point. They have to like accomplish a few things during the scene.
Well, this was not. It was. We wouldn't improvise it. But there's a scene where I'm trying to get one of the characters. She's writing a script, and I'm like trying to encourage her to use water as a setting, like Waterworld.
Right.
And so I'm trying to encourage her to write her script, and I'm just like, this is such a great idea. This is gonna be so good for you. And what I'm supposed to say, and I'm not a creative person like you are, but it'd be a great setting for films. It's totally underused. It's an underused setting. And then she's like, what? And I'm like, with the water. And I go into this whole Waterworld thing. But instead, I just go, this script this is going to be so great for you. This is such a good idea. And then I just blanked. Because also this was like our first night back after we had COVID, and I still had brain fog.
Right.
And I'm not joking, it was 86 degrees. It was 86 degrees in the theater because the AC had malfunctioned. So I'm like feeling like I'm going through menopause.
So
I'm in this. I feel
hot
all
yoga.
I feel, yes, it was. It was like hot yoga. I feel like all the blood draining from me because it's so hot. And I'm just staring at her. And I was just like, it's really going to be good for you. It's so good. This is going to be so good for you. And I knew, and Zoe, who was sharing the scene with me, that's her real name, like she knew all of her lines. She was like, you know how you used to mouth she wasn't mouthing our words, but I knew she knew. I knew she would help me, right? And that's the trust you have to have. That we don't have this in stand-up, right? There's no camaraderie,
right?
I'm not sharing the stage with anyone. So I just stare at her, and then she looks at me and goes, I was thinking about using water as a setting. And then that's when I was like, yes, water. And then I went and I got around to it, right? And I got us back on track. But it was fine.
Right.
It didn't mess up anything. And people thought it was funny. They got the biggest laugh out of it. So it was totally fine. It was good. I did almost, there's also this scene where we're supposed to be drinking, like drinking.
Yeah.
But I made a concoction, like a real concoction out of Crystal Light.
Oh, okay.
Just Crystal Light. So we're drinking it. And when you take a sip and it goes down the wrong path and then you have a coughing fit?
Yes.
And you could cough for 5 minutes. So that was happening on stage where my throat was tickly and I was like,
especially if it's too powdery, that Crystal Light powder can incapacitate you for a couple minutes.
It was a dense mixture. I used a whole packet and probably half as much water as I should have. So I spent like 30 seconds concentrating on not coughing and just getting through my lines. Because once I started, I knew I couldn't stop coughing.
Right.
So, but it was so much fun. We had the best time. I love being with the cast. I've taken all these acting classes. I audition all the time. I'll get bit parts and stuff. But this was like a juicy part.
Right.
I was one of the leads. I could develop a character. I could come up with her, little quirks and stuff. I had so many lines. I was in most of the scenes.
Okay, we get it. We get it. You're the star. We get it. Okay. Yeah. I want to compare this.
Written for me.
Yeah. No. Okay, we got it. I want to compare this experience to you for like an athlete who When the boys were playing tennis, their tennis coach, when they were little, used to always encourage them to do other sports, right? To cross train, and used to say, you need to be, not playing tennis 12 months of the year, go play soccer, or basketball, or baseball, lacrosse, whatever that looks like, so that you are in full shape. Because she'd always say, you can't hit the ball if you can't get to the ball, right? This is going to make you the best athlete possible. And I love that line. Right. So I feel like it's similar with your craft, that if you just stuck in your lane of comedy, of doing stand-up comedy for every hour of the day, you'd sort of, you'd reach a peak and not be able to expand. Do you think that this acting experience is one of those ways? I know you've done improv and you MC, you do a lot of things, you do this podcast, but ways that you sort of, the same way that those athletes are toning their muscles, you are finding ways to tone your creative muscles. Does it help you with stand-up? 100%.
And I don't know if this will help me with stand-up. I would say stand-up helped me with this because I was never nervous to perform. I'm very comfortable on stage. That didn't scare me, but I also wanted to be a good scene partner. I wanted to be there. I wanted to make sure I knew all my lines and that I was going to do a good job. But it intimidated me. And that's what I liked. I liked that it scared me. I think a lot of people are fearful of situations like that, but it's so rare that I get intimidated by a situation. And I was like, if I can manage this, then I can manage being on set with celebrities, right? That would intimidate me. Because when I did that pilot for NBC last summer, I didn't really know the actors I was on set with, or I wasn't awestruck by them, they were fantastic actors and people know them, but it wasn't like my celebrity crushes or people that I would be silenced over because I was so intimidated by them. So I felt like, anyways, that this put me in a situation where it was intimidating, it was scary, and I got through it.
Well, I think it's also and I've been told this before, that your comfort zone is way outside most people's comfort zone, right? So you have a pretty large comfort zone. So to find opportunities that get you outside of it. And I think this is true as adults. When I did, we had one of those Dancing with the Stars type fundraisers here in Chattanooga that still goes on. And I did it years ago. And
would love to do that.
Mimi was still alive, of blessed memory. And she came, and I remember I thought, well, I can dance, but I'm doing the bar mitzvah disco dancing. This was ballroom, formal dancing.
Choreographed.
And, it was very challenging. And it just reminded me, and even though that was at least 10 years ago or so, how few opportunities we have, especially as adults, to really get out of our comfort zones and to challenge ourselves. Because at a certain age, we know what we're good at, we know what we like, and then when we find the intersection of those two things, and we sort of stick there. And so I think it's helpful for anybody to get out of their comfort zone every so often, to really take on a challenge, whether we think it can embarrass us or whether, especially I tend to be a perfectionist. So it's really hard for me to take on a task, not just out of my comfort zone, but that I think I won't be great at.
Yes.
And that's hard to admit, and it's hard to do, but I think it's really healthy.
That's what I was afraid of too. I didn't want to do a bad job, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to be fantastic at it, and I wasn't so confident that I would be, but I also liked that opportunity. And I think it's interesting because I think mommy and daddy always put us in situations where we were out of our comfort zones, right? So we're comfortable being out of our comfort zones.
Right. That's a great way of putting it.
Which is unusual. I think also that we would go seek out those situations. I mean, for you do stuff I would never do, and it's a lot of physical comfort zones.
But I'm also I'm not afraid of heights. There's certain things
yeah, I'm risk averse when it comes to safety, right? And you are not. I'm risk averse when it comes to going up to a celebrity and embarrassing myself. You are not.
Maybe that's
something I'll do.
Yeah. I need to figure out. I need to rein a few things like that in. Make sure. I think I'm better. No, maybe not. I would still go up to any celebrity anytime. Yeah. Every time the boys mention a celebrity, I'm like, oh, I met that person. They're like, where? I was like, I don't want to tell you because you're. Somebody said John Malkovich the other day. I was like, oh, I've met John Malkovich. They're like, You met John Malkovich? I said,
Wow.
well, I never told you this. When I was living in Chicago, my friend Michael owned a Italian ice store, and he needed people to help work there. So my roommate Stacy and we would help him out every so often.
Wait,
And
you met John Malkovich?
yeah, yeah. So I'm telling you. So I'm in his Italian ice store in Chicago. This is like 1993. And I'm working behind the counter. It's this tiny little shop in downtown Chicago, and John Malkovich walks in. I don't realize it's John Malkovich because he is dressed like this bohemian kind of crazy person, and he comes behind the counter and he starts writing on the wall. Well, I don't realize that he's come in the shop before, and this time he came in, Michael, the owner, asked him if he would sign the wall. Well, all I see is this kind of loony, artsy guy walk behind the counter, start drawing the wall. I'm like, what is going on? And Michael's like, it's John Malkovich. And do not say anything to him, which of course to me is like a triple double dare, right? Double dog dare.
Yes.
So John Malkovich finishes writing his name on the wall. Then he comes up and I was like, hi, can I help you? Would you like any Italian ice today? He goes, yeah, I'll try this flavor and this flavor. And so we're getting his ice cream, and I'm just looking at him and I'm staring, and Michael's looking at me and giving me a dirty eye, and I'm looking at John Malkovich, and finally I go, Mr. Malkovich, I just want you to know I really admire your work and everything you've done. And he's like, well, thank you so much. And I go, you're welcome. So he walks out. I never was able to live that down. Every time Michael saw me from that moment forward, he would look at me and go, Mr. Malkovich, I really love your work. Oh my gosh. And like make fun of me for like gushing over it. And I guess what? No regrets. Zero regrets. I got to talk to John Malkovich. I told him I admired his work. There's nothing wrong with that. He was in front of me. I didn't run after him in the middle of a park or
which you've done
an
before.
airport, or which I have done with other celebrities. So there you go.
It's okay.
Yep.
It's okay. That was pretty mundane considering your history.
And guess what? I am not going to say I'm sorry.
Just don't say it. Well, thanks for listening to the latest Sis Tell podcast. Don't forget to share us with your friends, share us with your family, share us with your foes.
As always, this has been Amanda and Allison with a whole lot of talk about a whole lot of nothing. We'll catch you next time.